आज हेलो गाइस, आज है मेरा इंटरव्यू। तो एज डिस्कस बिफोर, मैंने बोला था कि मैं इंटरव्यू देता रहूँगा और रिकॉर्ड करता रहूँगा। तो लेट्स सी हाउ इट गोज। 3 बजे है, ज़्यादा प्रिपरेशन नहीं है, गाने वाने पूरे सुन लिए, कुछ भी नहीं पढ़ा है, कुछ भी नहीं। अभी देते हैं और देखते हैं लेट्स हाउ इट गोज। Three o'clock. Hi everyone. Hey, hello. Sorry for joining late. I was just there was some internet issue. Sure. Uh, I'm doing good, Akshat. How about you? Yeah. Yes, Akshat. I joined recently. Actually, I have a basic understanding on AWS part. Yeah, I'm aware of yeah, some of the services for AWS, but not extensively work on it. Uh, yes, I think Macy. I'm unable to recall, but there are some services like Macy, and it usually check for the sensitive information in AWS S3 bucket, which is going on. Or one is AWS Inspector or something, which is a kind of vulnerability man. It generally find the vulnerability, a kind of automated scanner. So sure. S- yeah, yes. Okay, whenever you found a vulnerability that can be classified, or I could say the risk rating could be, classified on the basis of CIA trait. It is, how exactly which component the vulnerability is impacting, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So if it's impacting both, all the category based upon, okay, okay, sure. So confidentiality, integrity, and CA is what I told you. And apart from that, authentication or the authorization is a part of, uh, are you the accessible, authorized person to access the resource? It's generally the authorization part, authentication part, and authorization is some kind of, what level of access you generally have. It defined, whether you're an admin or a normal user, escalating privileges and all stuff. Integrity is something, I could say, if a data is in transit, the value of data doesn't change, should not be changed. It is impacting the data in some of addition or deletion or operation could be happening. Availability is something, let's take an example. If somebody DOS attack comes on and your resource is unavailable for a reason, so this particular scenario could be impacting the availability feature or update. Mm, I will take a yeah SQL injection. If a attacker runs able to run a successful SQL query and able to delete the data, so the availability could be impacted here. I'm not sure about it. Uh, Digital signatures. Is it something related to certifications? Uh, it is digital signature generally authorized. Authorized. I'm not very sure about it. So, yeah. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So whenever any requirement comes in for a application pen test, I would like to know what exact the role, function of the application. And as a pen tester, if in among the organization, you generally ask the questions like, uh, what are the major functionality change has been done from the past release to this release? If suppose there is, because every time we do a pen test for the every new releases, I would like to know more about the functionality change, or is there any custom code changes or not? If yes, will usually have a small walkthrough call. If you are not unable to understand the application flow, what exactly the application is doing, like to know more about how exactly the application works, like it has a single user application or a maker shaker kind of functionalities. Tech stack, basically what language it is being developed on both front end and the back end. Along with that, these are the basic question I'll take up and I'll move with my assessment. I can define the scope whether I should go for black box testing or a complete, gray box testing here. So when I start, I usually spend few hours just crawling throughout the application to understand better what all functionalities are there and what all test case I could perform during my test scenarios. So meanwhile, while doing this, I generally intercept the traffic through Burpsuit so that it usually trace the traffic and it helped me while I performing the automated scan. It generally helped me to crawl it better way. So parallelly, I could run any kind of reconnaissance, like there are multiple tool like directory listing. You can see GoBusters and all. So parallelly, I could do that. And after having a complete glimpse onto the application, I'll start my manual pen testing. I usually follow a checklist which we generally have. Suppose there is a login page, I'll try to perform a tag from a low severity to high severity, from SQL injection to any kind of response manipulation, so that I can easily bypass the authentication. Moving to the functionality, I suppose there is an upload feature and all, I'll perform the certain test cases. And we generally follow a process. If we find anything critical or any kind of critical vulnerabilities, we prior inform our clients or developer teams before sending them a actual report or a draft summary saying that, oh hey, hello, we have find this vulnerability and you can fix it, the basic summary. And we'll prepare a report, we'll give them a description, impact, step to reproduce, mitigation, and if possible some good read from a trusted sources. So this is generally we do. Mhm. Uh, if the application is in production, make sure that the scan is non-intrusive in nature. So we generally, there is an option in Burpsuit to uncheck the form submission. We generally create a junk data, so you can remove those. You can go with a passive scans over there rather than active scan or not intrusive in nature scan. Along with that, uh, We usually follow a request headers like any kind of significant. You can give your sign like we usually give a request header like override capture something anything, so that your shop team should be aware of that the request is coming from a trusted source. What we generally follow, because instead of it may block, because the production has a lot of defense in place. Along with that, whenever you insert any kind of payload, you don't go more just the test is more a kind of POC rather than exploit purpose. You can give a POC and always try to clean your environment when you execute a test. Suppose I put a stored cross-site scripting payload, I'll delete that particular command once I take the POC. So this is the basic, this is the generic process we follow. Mhm. There is a concept of macros in Burpsuit. It generally what generally it does, you can capture the login request, and you can take this request into the macros, and while setting up the macros, generally login request has a post body parameter. You have to specify those parameter with username and password. So what exactly happen whenever there is a 400 request arises, it directly trigger your macro, which is a login request, and it will reinitiate to the scan from where it got not it is not successful generally. uh, OWASP top 10, right? 23. Yeah, the latest one. uh, there are 3 to I think 4 new findings which has introduced. I'm not able to recall all the one, but SSRF is being included now. Along with that, there is a cryptographic failure, one of the vulnerability, and apart from that, uh, known vulnerabilities are software design. Something is just being changed to known vulnerabilities, and there were one more. I'm not able to recall it. Mhm. uh, Secure design, okay. Let's say you have an application in which you generally, it's a kind of I could say vault, and in the vault you can store your PDF or any kind of documents here. So what exactly happening here is, when I use a logged in, he can see his documents, and when you look, when you click the document A, you can directly view it. And when you look into the URL, there could be a query parameter associated to that particular document, like query parameter, document ID is equal to 123, and if you the second is document ID is equal to 456. So suppose there are two user, Anil and Akshat. So I logged in as you Anil, and if I'm able to view Akshat documents simply by changing those query parameter value, right? It is generally, I could say, one document 123 belongs to Anil and 456 belong to Akshat. And if I from a logged in Anil user session, I generally type remove that, replace for 123 to 456. I see Akshat's document here. So generally this is one, yeah. This is not. This is generally a IDOR vulnerability. It is IDOR vulnerability, indirect object vulnerability. What exactly? But in terms of design, we could say that any kind of sensitive information or such information should never be transmitted into a GET request here. The first thing, it should be always transmitted into it should be in the post body request parameter. So this is one of the scenario we could say it lies for IDOR as well as under the secure design as well. Encryption is simply changing a plain text into a ciphertext with the help of a key, and hashing is changing a plain text into a hash value. But the main thing is, once the plain text is converted into hash, it cannot be again change into a plain text, where into the encryption part you can change the ciphertext into again to the plain text with the help of the key. So that's the major difference. There, there are a lot of tools which can crack the weak hashes. Uh, I think if you have a symmetric encryption, so symmetric or generally if okay, let's take an example. The JWT uses HS256 algorithm, and we report it as a vulnerability here. The reason is because it's a symmetric encryption, and there are a tool called JWT cracker which can crack this vulnerability. Uh, yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Uh, Generally, I think there is a concept of using the strong hashing algorithms, because of RS RS256 is there. Oh, sorry, it's encryption. MD5. Generally, there is an attack called hash collision. I am aware of. So, uh, suppose there are you store passwords in database, and there could be a possibility that the algorithm can generate a same password for two different hash collisions. Suppose the password is for Anil and Akshay, there is the same password, and it may be I'm unable to recall Akshay, sorry. Yeah. It's a weak one, we reported. Uh, Generally, while doing a web pen test, we run a basic Nmap scan, so or a test SSL scan. So over there, we can report the vulnerability like Lucky 13, Sweet 32, and if it is using CPC mode ciphers and all, so we generally report that. Click checking is generally a attack in which attacker can load an application into the iframe, into the attacker control iframe. So this is generally a click checking. It's generally stealing your clicks. Generally, this is all about click checking. Generally, what happen, it will frame an iframe in which he can load your application. It could inject any kind of malicious link over it, and the user, you as a user go and click to the login button or something, and your password is being associated, or any kind of malicious activity could be carried out. It could be used for phishing. Yeah. We have a header called xframe header. It could be deny or same origin, no other origin could use it, or there is also a frame busting code you can use apart if you are not using the header. XSC is a XML injection attack. So if generally what happens when the request, when you send a request, there could be it could be into a JSON, text, or XML format. So if you notice your you can use your application is transferring the data or the request into a XML format, you can try out XML injections over there. It a kind of XML. The only difference is you can make your own entity in XML and define a task. Suppose I create an entity and I try to fetch a local files and all, and if the server is accepting those, so it generally lead to XXC attacks here. So, uh, Remediation is in, I think in Java there is a document builder factory which should be disabled, and document type declaration should be disabled, along with external entity should also be disabled. Local file inclusion, and another one is remote file inclusion. So local file inclusion talks about the local internal file of your, from your application server, or from the application directory, I could say. And it's a more a kind of, whenever you see a query parameter like path, or a file, or a go for, or etc something, you can try any kind of file inclusion attack, or like dot dot slash some of the directory name and add the file name you can provide. And similarly, remote file inclusion, it's a kind of you are trying to access the remote file from the server. It could be associated to your application, or the other application which are also, hosted on the same server, or the same remote server. uh, of path traversal and file inclusion, no. Yeah, Akshay, generally, this LFI and RFI are the inclusion attack, and in the path traversal attack, you only have a permission to view the data. I could say you can directly view the data, or you can see what all things are being, suppose there is a HTML page, you can see generally. Or if in other words, I could say, in a path traversal attack or a directory traversal attack, you can only have a right to see the data. While in the inclusion attack, if you are able to navigate to a particular file, you have a permission that it will get executes for you. Okay, let's take an example. You upload a cross-site scripting file, and with the path traversal attack, if suppose directly listing, you navigate to that particular file and you open it in your system, it will while opening it will give you in a text format like script alert, something in a text. And similarly, if you are able to reach that file from an inclusion attack, or a LFI or RFI, the pop-up will execute. DOM-based accesses is generally a category of cross-site scripting attack, in which uh, the request will not be generated from, not be sent to the backend server. The whole evaluation and execution will be from the client side. There is a functions like evaluate, and which generally handles the execution of DOM-based. Uh, Application, generally, I generally experience this based upon the functionality. When very common example, if the application has a search functionality which is directly listing out from a JS file, so you can assume that there could be a possibility of DOM-based cross-site scripting. And source and sync, yes, yes, yeah. Generally, source and sync are the, I think it is the it is they are the one which are responsible for the execution of DOM-based cross-site scripting. So there are different source function, and there are different sync function. If you see that is being included on the particular functionality, whenever you send a request, you can open your developer console and see if that are being triggering out. You can try for a DOM-based cross-site scripting attack over there. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused on the remediation part. Out of band SQL injection is something I could say, it's a category of blind SQL injection, in which the result will not from the same channel, it will be from the different channel. For example, you can use the verb collaborator here generally to get the response. If you get the hit over the collaborator, you can somehow confirm that yes, it is an out of band. I think it is not majorly related to the database. I think RDMS are more prone rather than the normal non-relational database. Uh, Out of band, I told you that there is a different channel, but in the second order SQL injection, what exactly happened? Uh, when you enter a data into the application or a payload into the application at that particular time, the developer has used I could say a prepared statement or a parameterized query. So at that particular time, it is safe. But later, the same data is used in an application in different places, and where the developer by mistake they have make a dynamic query. So what exactly happened? While entering the payload, it was safe, but later when the data is being used, it was used in a dynamic query, so it is vulnerable. General mitigation is used using a prepared statement or a parameterized query, I could say, and this is the primary mitigation for SQL injection. Apart from that, some people use stored procedures, so there could be a no chance of the user input could directly being placed into a SQL query, but that depends on the functionality. Mhm. We can go with the stored procedures here. You mentioned uh, then do we? I think there. Mhm. There could be a strong input validation, I could say, and security measures should be, web should be in place, and rules should be updated. Custom rules should be set for SQL injection. If you're not, really want to work on uh, changing the code. Yeah. Whenever you traverse through the application, you can see certain functionality where there is a kind of code operation being processed, any kind of cross-site request forgery. This stands for CSRF attack. It is more kind of attack in which a victim will perform an action which is he or she is not intended to do, but that is being performed with the help. Usually, a link will be sent by an attacker, and if the users click in, and if he has an active session, the action will be performed. This is generally a CSRF attack, a cross-site request forgery. The attacker is unaware of what is going to happen with the click, and it generally happens. And apart from cross-site scripting, generally your application is vulnerable to execute the JavaScript from any source, we can say that. Mhm. Okay. uh, See, if you have a login page, generally the I could say the most impact this accesses can do is stealing the local secret. But considering it is a login page, the session is or not being created, and there is a no chance of stealing any kind of session values. But again, uh, there could be a different browser secrets along with the cookie values. We can definitely report it, but the severity could be low here, and considering those aspects, we can say that we can report it as low finding here. Generally we use CVSS calculator, or currently uh, based upon the application and business criticality also we generally rate. Uh, these are generally used for extra layer of defense for cross-site scripting attack or a content injection attack. So generally CSP tells you about what iframe, which resource should be loaded and executed. So if you have a strong CSP, you can say that you can somehow protecting your application for inline scripts or any iframe or any Java or other scripts being loaded. But it is not a mitigation because there are multiple bypass. One bypass I could remember is CSP doesn't validate URL query parameter. So this is the one. Hmm. Uh, I'm not sure, but I usually see this request in Qualys scanners, and it is generally a low category vulnerability, and it is not a safe practice to, have this configuration for CSP. Uh, Generally, when you see a JWT, you can, you go to jwt.io. When you expand the JWT, try to figure out one I told you about the algorithm part. If it is HS256, you can report this to, make it RS256 and all. Moving further to the payload section, there could be any kind of sensitive information like username, password, roles, and all. And when you see such things, if there is sensitive information, that is another scenario. Apart from that, there is a, we call it as a vulnerability like bola, a mass assignment kind of vulnerability, in which suppose you have a JWT token, and in which you can add a new parameter, like suppose initial role is equal to normal user, and you change the role is equal to admin, and remove the signature part and send it, and see whether the server accepts it or not, and you are getting the successful response or not. So you can try such thing. Yeah, you have to remove the signature part over there before proceeding. Directly, if you see a JWT token, it's a base 64 token separated by dots, and the last from the last dot, the last one is the signature part. Huh. You can use a tool called JWT Cracker if the algorithm is HS256. It takes a lot of computational time, but yes, I have solved a couple of labs, but it gives you a string. You can put that string and update the token, and you can proceed further. Unrestricted resource consumption. Um, I'm not sure on this. Yeah, sure. Suppose there are some of the unrestricted resource consumption. If I want to guess it, it's more a kind of you have a resource which is not valid, a kind of zombie API, I could say, and these are just consuming your resource which is not active, or it's not being managed. So these are kind of unrestricted resource consumption. Yeah. Uh, Usually I'll ask a collection a Swagger file, and I'll like import those file into the Postman, configure my bug. Moving further, I'll see what kind of authentication are needed. Sometimes you have to set up the authentication as per the team's requirement. Additionally, it's a manual approach, so you can do that. Once you got a successful authentication, uh, you can start your assessment. In a similar way, I generally follow a process analyzing each endpoint, how exactly it is. Generally, not directly jumping into the delete part. It is something, create, delete, edit, and all. it generally has a logic. Try to identify the logic and what exactly these APIs are doing, because API generally link with each other so that they are fired in a sequence. So try to identify that logic and try to find any gap on the security weaknesses. Uh, what it's JWT is a more, I could say it's used for the authorization part, and what is a engine, authorization engine. uh, if I say you, suppose you log in into, you have an application and you want to, you are not authorizing those application, you have integrated OAuth, which asks the user to authorize the application on the behalf of me, like Google, sign in with Google, sign in with LinkedIn and all. So these are generally the purpose of OAuth, and it has a lot of vulnerability, like when you test the OAuth, there are some parameters, like redirect URI, client ID, and state and all. There are 4 to 5 parameters, and this endpoint could be directly identified by authorizing endpoint. At the last will be // authorized or something. So what generally happen, if OAuth is not properly handled and the state parameter is missing, there is a possibility of CSRF attack. And client ID and all, generally redirect URI is open redirection, or you can try over there. I haven't delivered much of the project, but I learned by myself, so I have pretty much idea on it. Generally, Android comes with a certificate. So when you use a collaborator or a router device, and integrate with your burp suite, you will unable to capture the traffic here because the certificate is being pinged. So for this, you need to bypass the SSL pinning, or generally means you have to remove those certificate and add your custom certificate. This is the generic mechanism. And to do this, there are manual as automated tool also. Manually, there is a approach, etc. Some folder is there where the certificate will be there. You have to replace it from burp suite, and you have to save that particular APK and recompile, generally self sign with, and try. And if not, there are the tool called Frida and objection. You can try those tools. And if Frida check is also there, there is a tool called Grida and something I'm not aware of, but you can use it. uh, Nothing as such, Akshat. I'm not very sure what to ask at this point of time, but it was very nice interacting with you. Thank you, Akshat. Thank you, and have a good day to you too. भाई, दिया है ढंग से, मज़ा आ गया, देख लो कुछ नहीं बना था। अच्छा क्या, आई एम फीलिंग वेरी हैप्पी एंड इट्स गुड। और तुम्हारा भाई बैठा के नेट कर, अच्छा था। इट वॉज वेरी वेल। आई एम हैप्पी विथ मी, एंड कुछ चीज़ें मुझे आनी चाहिए थी, बट ठीक है, प्रिपरेशन नहीं है, बट चल सकता।